Thanks for listening to The Front Lounge with Congos. You can catch this live every Tuesday on our Twitch. That's twitch.tv/congosmusic. Also, make sure to join our Discord. That's congos.com/discord, DISCORD. A lot of fun people there. It's a great community. If you'd like to support the podcast, join our Patreon. That's patreon.com/Congos. You'll get access to all the archives of streams that we've done on Twitch, plus merch discounts and more.
Check. Looks like it's going.
Hello, what are the stomps that you use, Jesse, on the track? Is that taken from me stuff or from?
It's basically copied the whole drum track from Turn This Round.
Oh.
And then
it's a good way to
a few little things from.
Yeah.
I can do this all day.
But it's a good way to do things actually is to sample ourselves because it gives it a kind of different thing.
Yeah. Also at a different tempo.
Yeah. It feels like it's got the effect of a sample, but
there's an account I follow on
like
TikTok that breaks down every hit track sample by sample, like Firestarter. And particularly Prodigy, you think there's like one or two big samples in there. Basically, the whole record is samples.
Oh, but there was also that they were loading it into their Akai, and that's how they got sounds.
No, I'm saying they were just using it as instruments, all these samples, and it's part of the reason all the sounds are so cool.
Yeah.
Someone do a Instagram story.
Yeah.
Oh, are we live right now?
Yeah, we're live. People are watching.
Oh, okay. We were just having a casual off-air conversation about music.
Yeah. I am very excited for this new cover that we're doing.
Yeah.
That's not going to come out for a while, so it's too early to talk about it.
Can't talk about it. Yeah, I think it's really cool.
So we're Congos. We're a band. This is The Front Lounge, episode 49. Today, this episode is called Solving All the Issues.
Issues.
Kind of like all of our episodes, we're going to solve a bunch of things. Off the bat, I think we'll get into this AI Drake track that came out. Well, not Drake, but there's a guy called Ghostwriter something.
Yeah. Did
a completely AI-generated song. I believe UMG has got it pulled down everywhere on Spotify and that, but it's still going big on TikTok. So we can talk a bit about that. I've got a couple cool videos from this account that we all follow called Dust to Digital, which I think is the best social media account out there. It's like actually uplifting musical content.
Right. So, but to clarify on this AI track, it's not that AI has written the music. Someone made a beat and then they used the AI voice changer, right?
Yeah.
So they did the verses into a mic and then they upload that audio or they go through the voice changer, and the voice changer is imprinting Drake's phonemes or whatever onto it.
Yeah.
So the question is,
I don't want Drake's phonemes on me.
Right. The question is, how does it do it? Is it synthesizing the voice, or is it training on lots of his?
Yeah.
But so the argument that they're going to make then is that it's a likeness lawsuit. It's not a.
Yeah. But that's where it actually gets gray because.
Right. How do you?
Can you do an impression of somebody?
Right. Was that guy from SNL who does an amazing Jay-Z impression?
Yeah.
Could he just make a record?
Well, here, let me play a little bit of it because I don't think it's a problem. Like,
no, yeah.
If they come after us, we'll be like,
flex, bumping Justin Bieber. I came in with my ex like Selena, the flex, bumping Justin Bieber.
It's fucking good because I hate it.
Yeah, that's not Drake.
Right.
It's crazy. I think it's funny that people are going to be anti-AI because of this and pro-Drake. And it's like, he sounds like AI to begin with. So it's obvious he was one of the first targets for AI.
Yeah, this is going to be pretty interesting. I was talking to Josh about this last night on Sunday. And it's it's quite obvious that they're feeding a lot of this AI. They're learning from inputs, so they're feeding. Like when they're writing songs, they're feeding a song into it, and so you can see that. You'll be able to see that in the code. It's no different really than us writing a song, which we're getting fed all our influences and then we're regurgitating it. But you can't see that. It's not tangible. You can't see that the code coming in is what we're just kind of rearranging and putting out. With AI, you're going to see that code and you're going to be able to audit that code and say, well, you used 100,000 songs and they all deserve a piece of this copyright. Like that's what's different about it.
Right.
I have a something kind of related, but I saw a question in the chat there from Rachel Congos, and I know for a fact that that's not my wife, Rachel Congos. It's spam or it's a bot or something. So if you guys could do a favor and report that account.
I mean, I'll block it right there.
Yeah, our wives would never watch this podcast.
Speaking of like. The timing of that could not have been fucking better. Yeah. We're talking about bloody likeness impersonations, and
we are entering a new world, I think, of scariness in that respect. You know, it's kind of like the internet pre-encryption, you know, where you just go to a website and it was totally unsecured, and nobody ever dreamt of putting their credit card, you know, into the internet. And then certain encryption stuff fixed that. And I feel like we're on a precipice again where you're not going to be able to know what's real and what's fake very soon. Like already it's quite hard.
So here, look, as we're talking about that, why is my pictures not working there? This just won a very big photo contest.
Wow.
It's fake.
And did they tell people that it was fake?
Yeah, when he won, he declined the award and said, I just wanted to basically prove.
Wait, so they didn't know when they were selecting?
No.
Wow.
Jeez.
The only thing he said, he said, like, can you tell something's wrong with this picture? Like, its hands, I think, are still a bit iffy on AI. But nevertheless, so he was making a point, you know, like that we need to probably separate these out somehow. Mm-hmm. Well, not that one's good or bad, but just separate it out.
There was a, I can't remember what it was called. I think V something. There was a project, you know, there was a blockchain project that was along the lines of this physical authentication. In other words, they would work with third parties who would authenticate something, like a watch or this or that, and its validity. And that would have a corollary on its blockchain. And so something like that is going, there's going to need to be a reliable way to verify what something is.
Yeah.
You know, who made it, how it, you know, anything about it.
It's going to become quite valuable. And I think the reaction to this Drake AI thing is obviously that's going to become a whole subgenre. It's probably going to dominate, particularly in certain genres. And then there's going to be an obvious massive pushback to it where people are only going to believe something. They can go sit in a room, drink a beer, and watch a musician perform something. Right. So that's hopefully, fingers crossed, that might be good for us who can sort of play instruments. You know,
I think though, you know, do you think that the photograph was as mind blowing as AI is to us as people back then? I think so.
Yeah,
it is. No one had ever seen a perfect recreation of reality. Everything had to be drawn or painted or whatever.
Yeah.
And
but if you follow that analogy, what did it result in? It resulted in people who painted realistically having to sort of find another way to express their creativity, you know, and the really good ones did. They realized that you can't compete with a photograph in terms of reality. But then, you know, there's always another layer, I think, to. And I don't think it's for every human. I think most humans are no better than machines, you know, NPCs essentially. But us, in this echelon of actual humans, and anyone watching this stream, we're all real ones. I think there is always another layer. You can always go a little deeper, and you know the machines are lagging indicators, I think, and I think the hope for humanity and creativity is that there is something, because if there's not, then whatever, we're all machines and just bots, and there's no difference. But I think that's something to think about.
Yeah, I think that you can even see it on social media, how popular physical feats and physical expression is. that people, that's not obviously can't be faked. And and especially when you know that someone is doing something physical with their body that's impressive, and if it's dance or whatever kind of art or anything like that, I think that is going to get increasingly popular, because you just cannot, you can't replace that with anything. You know, I think it's ironically the digital world is going to push people back in touch with their body.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe.
That's he said hopefully into the void. Yeah. So along the ideas of like creativity in music, I came across this really cool account called wise_musician on Instagram. It's got a lot of really cool quotes from musicians, and this is an interesting one because I think people probably have a certain idea about David Crosby from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. So I'm going to play this real quick. My screen switcher is not working.
Connection between the drugs that were taken, do you think, and legitimate and authentic musical creativity?
As the drug use line went up, the music writing went down. And there were corresponding curves. Drugs do not, let me emphasize that, help you write anything. They do not help you create. They get in the way. They lower your consciousness. They make you unable to really complete your work. All of us who are serious about trying to, do our art, do not do it. No serious songwriter I know does. And
wow, I've never seen someone say it so emphatically.
Yeah, especially because I think everyone's presumption probably is that, I mean, he did have a big drug problem, but they would presume is like, yeah,
right,
he got all this good music from it. So interesting to hear him say that, completely opposite to what I think most people would think. So damn it.
Yeah,
I mean, the first fucking comment, though, is one argument that supports this view is that the Chili Peppers made their best albums when they were clean. So it's just really like he's trying to make some sort of objective statement about quality of writing, and then someone reveals immediately how
being
subjective everything is.
Being sober doesn't necessarily create good art either.
Right.
Well, no, yeah, but the fact that he was relating it to like consciousness was obviously he's thinking about slightly more deep aspects of creating a song and all that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I can fully accept that. You'd have to start defining so many words, like what is art, what is consciousness, what is creating, what is good, what is
what
bad.
is drugs?
Yeah, yeah, and what is drugs?
Yeah, I don't know. Coffee? I don't know what counts.
Because I mean, some of those. You see Miles Davis or John Coltrane or any of those guys. Obviously, the drug didn't just create some genius out of them, but there was some intensifying of energy through whatever they were doing.
On the Coltrane front, when he quit Turkey and everything, he only went up in terms of, I think, his artistry and everything as he went on towards his death, and he'd quit several years before that. So, yeah, I mean, it's probably too arbitrary, but there's a definite point that Crosby was making that's
drugs
valid.
will facilitate the certain people into creating something that they wouldn't have created otherwise, but a real artist improves as they get older. That's what makes them a real artist. That's why Bob Dylan is still doing relevant shit. And like, so yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
if drugs
I mean, help
you
can say for sure that drugs make some of the most annoying art on the planet.
Depends on which drug, probably. All those 80s cocaine hits.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's annoying. Psychedelics are like people that are super into psychedelics and their music.
Anti-anxiety drugs make the worst music. Like Xanax,
all that
hip hop,
stuff.
and all that shit is fucking so boring.
Yeah, it's like whatever drug makes people's faces not be able to open all the way, so you get that microphone sound like, I'm going to sing all lyrics, I'm just not going to open my mouth all the way.
It's a bit like, does Botox help you to act?
If you have a smiling problem, yes, if you can't stop laughing in movies.
Okay, so this is really related to what we're talking about. The same account, Wise Musicians. This is really interesting. I think this is Arthur Rubinstein, one of the great piano players of the 20th century.
Oh, he plays, it's a second Liszt or second Paderewski or second. A second is already wrong, If he's a second, he's no good at all. He's an imitator. An artist in any way must be alone, a world by himself. If I were questioning somebody and asked you, for instance, well, who do you really think the greatest of all times? Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, Raphael, Titian, Velasquez, Rembrandt. What would you do?
It's impossible.
Each one of them is a world by itself, a world. Somebody who has the title of being an artist must have an unconfoundable personality. There must be the one and nobody else. There isn't such a thing as the greatest pianist of any time, of anyone, nor anything. Nothing in art can be the best. For me, if I'm saying, oh, he played...
Yeah.
Yeah, super.
That's I'm listening to another Henry Miller book, and he's talking about him getting into writing and how it took him so long to develop his own voice. And he kind of got this kind of criticism, like a lot of people pointed out at the time. He's like ripping off these French dudes, and he was looking at his notes for Tropic of Capricorn, his first book, and he had like this plot line of, I'm going to write in the style of, Dostoevsky here, and so and so here, and I'm going to reference this and that, and Oscar Wilde for these sections. And he was like basically acknowledging, and he says, I think I may have written the worst book of all time. and it took him a long time to basically shed that and discover, what his thing was.
What his voice was.
Yeah.
It's funny you play that clip and this comes up now because, I'm wearing my Kings of Leon shirt that we got on that tour with him all those years ago. And that's one of the things I feel like we learned from them as a band was that, we'd watch them every night and kind of see them closer from side stage or whatever. And I had this feeling after those shows of, we should be us as much as they are them, And it wasn't like I wanted us to be like them, but I saw how kind of committed they were, especially Caleb, just in his vocals. Like, whether you like the band or not, they're 100% committed and they are what they are, and they're kind of like unique and, obviously excellent band. But I just liked how much they were them.
Well, it's like that story Danny's been telling us recently about who's the surrealist?
Salvador Dali.
Salvador Dali, saying he wanted to be more Dali.
Yeah, well, Dick Cavett said, did you always want to be an artist growing up? And he said, no, I wanted to be a lactating woman. But now every day I just want to be more and more Dali.
I thought this was
There's
kind
sort of a Dr. Seussness to that statement, where it's to find the exact opposite of something is not easy sometimes, if you're trying to say like the opposite of hot, cold. Oh, no, well, what, the opposite of hot could be strawberries or something,
right?
Something
Exactly,
that's completely like, it's not sort of diametrically opposed. It's in another realm.
Yeah. I was just having this discussion with someone and they weren't understanding where I was coming from there. For them, it was a literal thing. Like, well, no, the opposite, but then the opposites in a general sense are always two sides of the same coin. They're always the same thing. They're always the way we generally use opposite because it's a duality. They're dependent upon each other.
Yeah. Here's one lost from this account that I thought was really cool. And we've talked about Leonard Cohen a lot, and he just keeps growing in my estimation. This is a quote talking about his lyric writing process.
If you can discard the slogans that naturally come to you, especially in a highly politicized time like we are now, it's something that goes beyond what has been called political correctness. It's a kind of tyranny of a posture, a kind of tyranny that exists today of like what the right thing should be. So those ideas are swarming through the air like locusts, and it's difficult for the writer to determine what he really thinks about things, what he really feels about things. So in my own case, I have to write the verse and then see if it's a slogan or not, and then toss it. But I can't toss it until I've worked on it and seen what it really is. So I find that process of writing the verse and discarding it until I get down to something that doesn't sound like a slogan, that doesn't sound like something that's easy, that surprises me. in writing.
There's a lot to unpack there.
That's why he's never going to get those Walmart ads. That word slogan in that context is such a powerful word because, even take it out of the context of songwriting and you realize when you're on social media all day, especially something like Twitter that's word-based, basically everything does become a slogan or a meme or a phrase or, an entire sort of political stance can be encapsulated in one tweet almost. And so you start thinking in those terms. And I just picture like lines of code, in the Matrix where you're walking through life and you're picking up these little lines of code that now become part of you and your personality. And it's literally just a line of code. There's no reality there,
Well, yeah. So it's also a kind of a indicating, it's always it's a social lubricant, I think, is how people use a lot of slogans. They use it to get through social situations where they're slightly uncomfortable because you see it out at bars a lot. I mean, the only one who still goes to bars out of us. And someone will be like, you'll be having a fucking meaningless conversation and about nothing, and everyone's just like consuming shit and they're drinking fucking, Fireball or whatever, and they'll say, they'll just be like, oh, yeah, climate change, and it'll be like a 2-second drop of this apparently major issue that people dedicate their lives to, but all it is for them is just a way to indicate their social standing and what their basic viewpoints on everything are. No one cares about it.
That's problematic.
It's problematic. Yeah.
So I just got a bunch of cool things to play today because they're cool. So this is another great account, like we said, Dust to Digital. This guy built something called a Rubens tube, which, go Google it on Wikipedia. They explain what it is, but it displays standing waves. So there's a guy playing a trumpet into this thing, and it's a propane, basically millions of outlets on a propane ring or a tube, and then fed into a speaker, and something about the pressure where that wave goes through, it pushes more or less propane through the tube, right. And you see the...
Right. Holy shit.
So if I was a rich guy, I'd get one of them in my house to impress
people. I'd put that in
with.
your fucking, do a huge one for your live show.
Yeah.
I mean, you could do it, but...
It was the first comment on that trumpet solo was fire?
No one wrote fire.
Yeah, what the fuck?
Come on. Maybe they're having... That's the problem with this account. Everyone's just like too civil and like smart. Yeah, I thought that was cool. Another thing from that guy, from this account, Dust to Digital, this guy, his name on Instagram is Echoman_Afonso, and you'll see why.
Microfone é eco, em que eu digo.
So for people that aren't watching, he doesn't have any effects on his voice. He's a human echoer.
A palavra toda. É microfone dos corpos. Este é eco em que eu corto tudo em dois. Eco montanha. É eco que vai mais longe. Eco mola. Com o som da mola. Eco fantasma. Eco mais. Eco boomerang. Eco boomerang.
So anyway, and then just one last video from this guy, him eating pizza.
Pizza. Mangiare.
I mean, that is a good party trick.
Yeah. But it's like years of practice.
What a
crazy new world. Like if you have a party trick like that, it can become a whole career.
People that will always comment on that kind of thing and say like, you have too much time on your hands. And it's just like, he's doing something that's innocuous and kind of fun. And the rest of us are ensuring that we pay the fucking government so they can what's the difference? It was like, I don't get why people need to like value what other people do. It has no effect on you.
So why are you so upset about people who do that?
Me, because they're doing it wrong.
Okay, so sorry. Last video from this
real
account.
quick. Who was Dan? Who was it? Was it Elvis's guitar player who didn't realize that delay pedals existed, or who was it? Which the guitar player? He didn't realize that on those records they had delay pedals, so he thought they were just playing every note, and doubling it, so that he played the echoes himself.
Jim Burton, yeah.
And
James Burton, yeah, Elvis's guitarist, yeah.
Oh, Elvis's guitar player. Okay, right.
All right, so sorry. Here's the last one from this. It's an explanation of how like tabla is taught.
On the instrument has a name. So when we learn the instrument, we learn the name of the sound, and then we learn how to play it. So for instance, the first stroke, your teacher might say, okay, place your hand like this, and strike like this, and that sound is called na. So however your teacher would say, na, na, na. Na, 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 na. Another open sound, dun. So then you can combine those, dun, dun. We have other sounds in the middle of the drum, dit, dit. Bring in the other hand. We have a closed sound, dit, 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 dit. We will have an open sound, the open bass, oh yeah. Now you can also change the pitch of that. So how you say it then is how you play it. So da, da di da, da di da dun, da di da, da di da tina kina da, da di da 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 tina kina da, da 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 da. Every sound on
that makes it even more impressive because when you listen to those Nasrat Fateh Ali Khan trading solos, I didn't realize that that Nasrat Fateh Ali Khan was calling out the notes and the pattern as well. I thought they were kind of trading 4s or 8s like the way jazz musicians do, and it's like kind of close enough,
Just looking at the chat here, the Mixter02 is saying, "My boys, I'm still alive. I just forgot my Discord login. Please remember me. It's literally been like a year. I've been so busy. We remember you." We don't know where Scooter is. He's also we haven't seen him in a while. Perhaps he's left for good, and you're the only funny one left, Mixter.
A lot of fake accounts out there. Jeez, it's really weird.
I think it's like the same one.
Yeah, they just keep recreating.
Yeah.
What else have you guys got to
yes.
talk?
On that fake account front, we never quite covered the purpose of crypto in this, which is to make it too expensive to do fake accounts. I think that's literally the only hope and possibly the most important use case of crypto is if it costs money to spam, then at least puts a cap on it, and a limit on it. Because
for everybody but governments and corporations.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, if we're getting fake accounts here, I can only imagine what bigger accounts get. It's just insane.
Yeah. Holy shit.
Play that Tyson thing. Just if we're going to talk about keeping it real.
Okay. Yeah. 1 second.
I just found this clip.
Start with you. Did you want to continue?
Well, I would like to continue, but I saw that I was getting beat on. I realized I don't think I have it anymore because I got the ability to stay in shape, but I don't got the fighting guts, I don't think, anymore.
When did you recognize that? At what part of the fight?
I don't know. Early into the fight. I'm just sorry I let everybody down. I just don't have this in my heart anymore.
Did you feel as though you had it coming into the fight?
No, I'm just fighting to take care of my bills, basically. I don't have the stomach for this kind of no more. I'm more conscious of my children and those guys looking at my parents. I don't have that ferocity. I'm not an animal anymore.
Does that mean we won't see you fight again?
Yeah, that's most likely. I'm not going to fight again. I'm not going to disrespect the sport anymore by losing to this caliber of fighters.
So you still managed to work in the "I'm the greatest of all time" sort of thing.
Well, I mean, but he doesn't think he's the greatest.
No, but like the way he says, "I'm not going to lose to this caliber of fighters."
Yeah,
like I lost to people that are not as good as me.
But he's right.
Yeah.
That's what's funny about him. He's not false in his humility or in what he thinks about it. Like he's just honest.
Yeah. his turnaround of his life is one of the
basically.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And he fucking made, like, how many people have face tattoos now? And it's all just, Jelly Roll and all these people. Tyson carved the way for them. That was a huge deal back then. And everyone was like, I can't believe he tattooed his face. And it's it's cool because he did it. Tyson's
I think face tattoos are very cool.
I think if you're Mike Tyson, anything is
very,
cool.
Very, very cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to talk about today. We're if you've been following us on Instagram, we're posting a lot of videos of us playing old and new songs in completely different ways. It's not totally random what we're doing with that. I think we're trying to work together, particularly of Lunatic, a way to do all of those songs completely different with an idea perhaps of actually trying to record them. So
let's talk about, yes, we're going to keep doing that. And when Jesse's out here, we'll obviously do real cool drum shit. Let's talk about Greek Easter. We haven't talked about that.
Oh, yes.
I haven't even heard how that was.
Yeah, wicked awesome. The food was wicked awesome.
I think I say this every year, but I think it was the best food so far. It's some of the best food.
The only thing it was missing was saganaki.
Yeah,
that was really
too many
missing,
people for that.
It was that's too labor intensive. So
I'm just
for
gonna
those of
go
you that
get
don't know, we're Greek-ish, and someone posted, it was you from Songland Farms, that Greek Easter is the biggest holiday for the Congas family. I think that's true. Like there's no other holiday we take as seriously. I even went to a Greek Orthodox church nearby where I live to go check out the ceremony, see what it was all about. It was half interesting, half typical, kind of going through the motion. Yeah, lots of the incense. It did reminded me of that because in school in South Africa, we would go to those occasionally in our school uniforms, blazers and all, like 95 degrees in the middle of summer when they would do some of these things, and that incense and just this nauseous feeling came back to me of just standing there in the heat.
Like trying to stay awake.
Yeah, like the suffering of Christ.
Yeah.
But, it was interesting to see, and I had this thought. I was standing in there because there's like a little gift shop in the church.
Did you wear your Adidas?
No. Okay. I was underdressed. I was wearing a hoodie. Everyone was wearing like, Sunday best sort of thing. But in the little gift shop, there was a little book and, like saying this church has been around since AD 33, like since the death of Christ. And you're standing there in the middle of nowhere, Texas, because where I'm at, like I went further out from where we live, and it's like basically rural. It was a small church, 75 people, doing something approximating what was probably done over the last 2,000 years here in the middle of Texas 2,000 years later. It's lasted that long in some form or another. It still continues to impact billions of people, not just Christianity, any of these religions that have lasted this long. And it's just, that's like, to see it every now and then, because we're so separated from, we don't go to church, any of us particularly. It's just amazing to see that. And then also to have simultaneously people that want to just throw that all out.
What's crazy
is
that book, The Immortality Key, gets into the influence of the Eleusinian mysteries on masses and Dionysian rituals and everything that followed. So it's way older than 2,000 years. But the mysteries are still a mystery. And they likely involved drugs and ergot and all that kind of stuff. But there was a massive preparatory period where before you were allowed to enter those mysteries, it wasn't just like people went there and got high and then they left. There was a huge preparation, and then there was like death penalty if you revealed what went on. And so there's still mysteries. No one knows what the mysteries of like Eleusis really were, but they were probably this guy's whole theory is that it was behind a lot of the mass type rituals that Christianity is now symbolically kind of mimicking.
But I thought about it also in the context of, or like the scale of things, of from like a tweet or this podcast, the most ephemeral thing ever, to something that 2,000 years later remains impactful. Like, and even across all disciplines, like there's very few scientific ideas even that last that long. You know, like there's Pythagoras' triangle, which was obviously earlier from coming from India, but like certain truths apparently still exist mathematically, but a lot, like most other things, just come and go.
Right. But then it also, I always have this question, which is what is science? Because it all gets replaced. So what constitutes actual scientific thought? Because it always gets updated. And
right. Well, that's what I'm saying. Like the idea of, like Plato talks about the idea, it's the form behind the thing, because the minute anything is brought into manifest reality, it is corrupted in a sense.
But even that is a kind of manifest description of the process. It's a bad analogy, maybe.
No, I mean, it's you have to talk. You have to talk. But
we'll see, like that in this this latest Henry Miller thing. He's got a very poetic American way of. Sorry, Jess, I'll let you say what you're gonna say. But he's got like a poetic American way of saying this kind of stuff. He said that reality can't be understood. It can either be accepted or rejected. And if you accept it, it enlivens you, and if you reject it, it diminishes you. And there's nothing more to it than there's no you know.
Well, to accept. Look, it gets into semantics because understand can have the meaning of acceptance.
Yeah.
Like, true understanding is not a intellectual endeavor.
Right.
I was just thinking about, you talk about things that have lost it, and kids can ask questions in a certain way that reveal so much to you about how little you know. Because this morning I got an old phone out so that Eve could, and I was going to put Apple Music on it so that she could play music, and she's reading now, so you can scroll down and read the lyrics while she listens to songs. And she was really excited, because we don't let them have phones or screens really much. And on the way to school, she asked something about, I didn't have a phone when I was a kid, or when I was a teenager, got one of the phones, and I said, but it didn't have music and camera and all this stuff, and she's kind of like, what was before that? and then I had to go back. Before that, there were no phones, and what was before that? And we eventually go back to the dinosaurs, And when you start to kind of go backwards in history and you think about it in those terms, and you've got to explain to a kid what happened to the dinosaurs? Well, they think that an asteroid and this and that, and it's like it kind of puts the context of human history, or at least known human history in a scope of things, in a time scope, and a tweet or a Bored Ape yacht club is like, well, what's going to last? I don't know. What's going to make it through the dinosaur age?
Yeah,
go ahead.
That's funny because when we were there and we were playing with Eve and Isla, and we were digging in the dirt, and I was pretending like we were digging for fossils, and we were talking about dinosaur bones, and I said, well, I don't know how a conversation got there. But I was like, well, they're not really bones anymore. They've turned into fossils, kind of like rocks. And she said, well, what are the rocks made out of? And so I said, I didn't know how to answer it, because I was going to say minerals and things that I don't even understand, and I'm going to explain it to a 6-year-old and try to talk about how the mineral or the makeup of a rock. And so I just said, well, in fact, the rocks are made up of the same stuff that we're made up of. And she says, well, what makes us different from rocks? and then I was stumped.
There's some great Calvin and Hobbes panels about this thing where Calvin's asking his dad, and his dad just makes up stories to explain things to it, like just completely fantastical things. When you start having to actually explain something to someone, you realize that you just don't fucking know anything.
I bring this up every time, but just in case people haven't heard it, go look up the Richard Feynman interviews related to this stuff, because he talks about the way his dad would explain stuff to him and how he would never lie. And he would always say, well, son, that's what he's 5 years old, and why is this ball moving, this cart moving, or whatever? And he says, that's called inertia, and no one understands why it works. And they're like, but that's the name we have for it. He's that was Feynman's main. He said his dad taught him the difference between knowing a thing and knowing the name of a thing.
Right. Mm-hmm. There's an Osho thing where he talks about that, like, he says thinking about something, and he says that the derivation of about is like around something, and he says like basically like stop thinking about things.
Right.
Like stop. Everyone's constantly thinking around things instead of being or trying to understand or exist and experience the thing. You're thinking around it.
Yeah, I just saw a clip on I think it was Dust to Digital where the guy was saying, he was saying to his music students, so when you're listening to this, what are you thinking about? Because you're calling it listening, but usually what you're saying is, how old am I going to be when I can play like this?
Yeah.
And he says that's not listening. And the same thing applies to like pool. I just played a 9-ball tournament last night, and I'm always somewhere else. I just cannot fucking I can't take one shot at a time. And eventually you have to worry
about
be
the ball.
Yeah,
Danny.
seriously. But then you have to do if you could get to one shot, you do have to worry about your leave. So you do have to, like, it's weird. You have to worry about the present and the future.
You actually played it. It was a tournament, like you signed up for it and everything?
So there's people who have a team. They lost a player, so they texted me.
Huh. Where, at Sam's?
No, at Betsy's. It's a pool hall.
Okay. And how'd you do?
What number were you on the backup list?
They want me on the team. I'm not
permanent team.
Yeah, they're like I was comparable with most people I played, and then there was a guy who was in a completely different stratosphere. It was just like
Do they have cool outfits like bowling leagues?
They are some of the most like. They're not at all mean, but they're like wordless people I've ever met in my life. And because I didn't know some of the rules, I didn't know about a push, which is like a way to on the break you can choose not to take a shot. And so someone started doing that, and I said, "Is that a push?" And she goes, "Yeah, ball out." And she just mumbles it. And then all the terminology, cheese. Oh, I cheesed that, and I've this, that, and. Mm-hmm.
There's a thing for everything. There's a niche for everything.
Yeah, it's like anything. If you talk to a surfer, if you were in the middle of the lineup on a wave and you were between two surfers and they were talking about how they were going to approach your wave or what type of wave it is and this and that, it's not English to most people.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of it's literally not English, but.
All right, let's wrap this up. Should be back to doing these more regularly. We're planning a couple good behind the songs, like Come With Me Now. We have never really broken that song down track by track. I think maybe we did it on the Discord, but never like publicly on YouTube and Twitch and all that. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to get to work here. We've got obviously May 5th, I think is the date. Our cover of Surfing USA by the Beach Boys is coming out. Very excited for people to hear that. There's a track coming out this Friday. That's all I'll say about that. And
I didn't, for some reason, I thought it was next week.
No, it's this Friday. It's a special track, not a congas track. But anyway, keep an eye out for that if you're following us on Spotify and all that sort of thing. Other than that, join the Discord. Keep that going there, and welcome back to the Mixter and other people that have been away from Discord for a little while. Good to have you guys back. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
See ya.